Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Apocalypse Movies. We are back with a movie review. This one is a pretty exciting one for multiple reasons. My name is Gio. I'll be hosting this review, and I am joined by Mr. Jake Berlin. We are talking about Will Smith's latest movie on Apple TV Plus, Emancipation. Very curious about this one. A lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions. We're gonna get right into it. First, Jake, how you doing? And when did you see this movie?
I'm good. As recording date, I watched it today, actually. It came out on Apple this last Friday. It was out in theaters the week before. I really wanted to do my best to see it in theaters. I just wasn't able to make it work, so I watched it on Apple. Um, and yeah, it's a movie that was on the list, and I was very, this is one of the perks about streaming, right? As much as we want to see every possible movie in the theater, having it
Yeah.
at the disposable of turning it on like this is very helpful, especially at this point in the year when things are kind of getting down to the wire for awards and the holidays are getting busy. Um, I watched it today on Apple, and I think I enjoyed it just as much as I thought I would in the theater. So
Yeah, and a little bit of backstory on this movie right here. Will Smith, starring, directed by Antoine Fuqua. When streaming services found out about this movie, there was a huge bidding war. I believe Netflix was involved as usual, Prime Video, and Apple. And there may have been some other players in there as well, but we know Apple has all the money and they got this movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, we're going to try to avoid some spoilers, although it is based on a real life story in the 1860s. An African American slave named Peter escapes and finds his way on the run in the Louisiana swamps and wants to get back to his family. Um, Jake, I'll start first. I did enjoy the movie, but I don't know if enjoy is the right word because it's
it's
a very
not.
difficult movie to
Hmm.
watch. I can say, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I was moved by this picture. It's very performance driven. Will Smith coming off of his best lead actor win, deservingly so for King Richard. Um, he follows up with another performance that reminds you of just how deep he can get into these heavily dramatic, emotional roles that are, you know, it requires an actor of his stature, given with this one, the story,
Yeah.
the physical demands of a
Yep.
role like this. His character spends a lot of time in the swamp on the run, barefoot, and just
By
playing this
himself.
role. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very much a role suited for a talent like Will Smith, who likes to be, the commanding presence, for better or worse. I found myself very moved by this movie. Will Smith, as great as he is a protagonist, I thought having someone like Ben Foster, who we don't see nearly enough, as the antagonist, was a great counterbalance in there. Um, Took me back to his 310 to Yuma roots, where he was also playing the antagonist and
Yep.
hunting down
Hell
Russell
or high water.
Crowe. Chris, yeah, Hell or High Water, absolutely. So, do you share the same opinions as I do, and anything further?
I
Obviously,
do. It is not the easiest film to watch because we're not just watching a story that someone wrote up, and we're watching this movie that is very hard to watch on screen. You're watching
yep,
this movie, realize that this is real life. Like, this happened, 150 plus years ago. This is something that someone actually went through, and we have
yeah,
seen stories based on the slaves before, and everything that happened with the Confederacy, and the Abe Lincoln story and all that stuff. But and I didn't know this going in, but this is the I'm maybe I won't say the single most, but this is one of the single most important slave stories of them all. They
mhm,
tell you at the end of the film, why. And it's not that much of a spoiler because it's a true story. But there was a specific photo taken of Peter that made its way around the country,
Yeah.
and it was a staple in getting the slaves freed. Um, and that's part of the movie, obviously, for important reasons. But to your point about Will Smith and his performance, there are, like you said, there are very few actors that can show the emotion not just through physicality, but we talk a lot about actors and their eyes and
Hmm.
facial expressions, and this is something that Will Smith had to use at his highest disposal, because although he's running from people and coming into contact with people, 75-80% of the movie is him by himself running through the swamps, swimming,
Yeah.
uh, in boats, doing climbing trees. It's all by himself. Like, of course, there's camera crews and stuff like that, but he's not acting against anybody. And Ben Foster is chasing him the entire time. But if you really look at the movie, again, this isn't a spoiler, but they have two, maybe three scenes together. Although they're
Right.
big scenes, it's literally just a goose chase the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's not the same type of movie, obviously, but talking about the caliber of actor that can act on their own, it reminded me of Leo in The Revenant, because
Mm.
he's in the wilderness by himself a lot, right after the bear attacked him, trying to survive, going through the physicality of the forest, coming in contact with people and doing things. But for the most part, it's him on his own, and that's what this film is. And we see moments of with other people, obviously, but the large chunk of the movie, the middle portion, which I was not expecting and I appreciate so much, is seeing what these people had to do to run. Like, we've seen
Right.
it in slaves films before, of someone going on a run, and then we kind of see them get chased down, or they end up at their destination. But they made it a point to take the time to show what they had to do, right? Fighting sea creatures, and starting certain fires, and hiding in certain places, and staying quiet in moments that would scar many, many people. It's not easy. Uh, I know Will Smith is in tricky water lately, and it's fair because of certain things that happened at the Oscars, but I mean, it's arguably one of the best performances we've had this year. For someone to put their mindset in that mindset, um, it's very difficult. I couldn't imagine it myself. I am very impressed with Antoine Fuqua as a director, because he has had some hit and misses lately. I am very impressed with what he was able to do with this film.
Yeah.
And I will also say that I greatly appreciate the choice of majority black and white, or at least a descaled color version of the film.
Right.
I thought that it added so much to the movie to have. And there's moments where we see a little color with like fire and maybe some like harsh
Blood.
red, harsher greens. Yeah, like the blood.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a very grayscale film. And I thought it was the best possible choice for this movie. It adds so much to the movie. I'm truly impressed with what Antoine Fuqua was able to do, because I haven't liked much of what he's done lately.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I don't mean to ramble and talk too much to you, but I thought that it was
No,
an
it's okay,
absolute.
man.
I thought it was a feat, and a movie that really did surprise me. The performances from everybody were phenomenal. Um, and again, just to think that this guy actually went through all this, and many, many people, dozens and hundreds and thousands went through this.
Right.
But just to see this story unfold it's heartbreaking, but it's also, kind of monumental because of the ending. So,
Yeah, it's another reminder of the dark times in this nation here in the States. And you can tell from Antoine Fuqua and Will Smith, this was a very important story for them. Maybe that's why we got some of the best work we've ever seen from Antoine Fuqua as a director. And one thing that really sticks out to me that you talked about is the actor in the environment,
mhm.
and the physical demands that takes. Like you said, he's you know fighting creatures, swamp and whatnot, sickness. And he's on the run. He's I thought the character was very clever in throwing them off off his scent.
He was very
You
smart.
know,
Very, very smart.
very smart. And one thing that really stood out to me as far as the scene goes is Ben Foster's character and his backstory with slaves.
Mhm.
How that ties into his upbringing, and showing the difference between you know being eh, being raised with love as opposed to being raised with hatred, and what that will do to a human.
Yeah.
I thought it added more to his character, and overall just gave for a much better movie. And I'm trying not to spoil here, but the third act, the movie goes into kind of a tonal shift in a sense. It becomes like a war movie
Because
of
it goes into the
sorts.
Civil War, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the Civil War of it. I want to talk about that for a little bit. Um, as if the movie wasn't disturbing to watch, I thought that part right there took the disturbing the violence to another level, because the way it plays out, it's like, okay, in a lot of these, Civil War movies and whatnot, obviously it's war and whatnot, but there's like a sense of heroism and whatnot. But with this one, I didn't get that
Mm-mm.
sense. It was
No.
very, very violent. It showed that, even though, a lot of these men who wanted to fight for the slaves getting freed, they had the heart. It was pretty gnarly to watch. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's never fun to watch war, but it's also never fun to watch, the country go up against one another.
Hmm.
We have a very rough history here in the US. Many countries do, but our history specifically is very, very hard. It's a very bumpy road, and the Civil War and slavery was one of those times. That scene they decided to show, and I forget the name of the battle, but right off the bat, you understood how um, brutal and violent that can really be.
Hmm.
I don't want to spoil, but if you're worried about it, here's a quick little spoiler reference. But the scene of them just walking up to the battle and people being shot and them
Yeah.
not stopping, like it shocked me. And it's crazy to think that I never really like thought about it, but they're literally the person next to them is getting a bullet through the face and they're continuing to march. It's terrifying to think about. Like it is
Hmm.
absolutely terrifying to think about that that's what we were doing to each other or just in general, like wars in general. Um yeah, it's not fun. It's violent, it's disturbing, um it's heartbreaking, but like I think you said it, it's necessary. I think to tell this story, you needed to tell that story. You needed to tell
Hmm.
that moment in the history, not just for the character, but overall for the story. And I thought it was just something that really added that much more to the movie, realizing not just what the character went through, but again what the time period was like. It's not just about slaves. Like
Absolutely.
they were all fighting each other, constantly shooting at someone that was born in another state, not another country, but another state.
It just goes to show how far, these people have come, and how much further they have to go, to truly get that feeling of freedom. Now, I have to ask you this. I'll try not to spoil, but Jake, I know you're a dog lover. How
Didn't
did
like it.
that
Didn't like
how
it.
Okay, so I was going to say, how did that scene play out to you within the context of
I understand because
right.
it's real life. Um, in real life, that's what they have to do. Back then they had dogs who were hunting and chasing, and they had to do what they had to do to survive. But for
Mhm.
me personally,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a very hard time, and it's funny because that's not really funny. Um, Yellowstone just did the same thing. The television show, they did the same thing this week with dogs, the exact same
Wow.
thing.
Oof.
And I understand that it adds something to some stories, but there's not a need to show it visually,
Yeah.
in my opinion. If you show it off camera, fine, but you don't need to show it to me visually. Again, I understand why they do it, but dogs go through some of the worst possible things on this earth for no reason. We don't need to show them being shot on camera. That's just my
Mhm.
opinion. That is my
Yeah.
opinion alone. And it also might be because I look at that dog and I have a dog that looks like that dog, and I have a shepherd,
Wow. Yeah.
and I picture my dog in that moment when I shouldn't be. And it's something that I feel like Hollywood needs to stop doing. If
Mhm.
you want to do it off camera, then fine. But I don't need to see a dog flying out of the air after being shot. I don't. Like, just don't show it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the more edgier parts of this movie,
Hmm.
and w- I guess now those of you watching know, so maybe that right there will make you decide whether to watch the
Yeah.
movie or not. Um, but it's like moments like that that elevate this movie and really have us as a viewer like having go through some type of emotions, whether it's that or it's Will Smith looking down on a child who's badly injured saying
Hmm.
God loves you. There's a lot of faith in this movie, a lot of religion in
Hmm.
there, and maybe that's what attracted Will Smith to the project as well. So any final thoughts on Emancipation before we wrap up here? I know we went over a little bit.
No, it's all good. Time is when we talk about movies like this, sometimes extra time is sometimes needed. But I would
Mhm.
definitely say that I think everyone should at least give it a try. Um, it may be hard to watch, and maybe you give it a go and you can't watch it after 30, 40 minutes, but I definitely think it's something that you should watch.
I would agree with you as well. It's a very performance driven, important story that is disturbing to watch at times.
Yeah.
It's a movie that you can probably watch once and then you're good. No need to ever watch it again. And I can speak for both of us when I say that we're thankful to have gotten a story like this and it be
It's
told
important. It's
so
important.
so well done. So those are our thoughts on Emancipation, the latest Will Smith flick on Apple TV Plus. Let us know what you guys think about Emancipation if you've seen it or if you're on the fence. Let us know if you think about giving it a try or not. As always, hit that thumbs up button. We appreciate your guys' support so much. You can expect more movie review separate videos in the coming weeks and definitely into next year. So let us know down below if you enjoyed it. You can check us out, Apocalypse Now, our movie hangout show, 7 p.m. Pacific time, every Tuesday with the rest of the gang. But for now, we're going to say goodbye. Hope you enjoyed it. And until the next video, you guys take care.